Hi, thanks for joining me on HR Chalk Talk. I'm Brent Houchin, founder of Houchin Consulting and co-founder of Tech People Resources, also known as TPR. The HR Chalk Talk podcast is here to provide information to those in human resources, those in leadership positions, and those who simply want to know more about HR and best practices. Today's subject is recruiting while incorporating diversity and inclusion. Sourcing, recruiting, hiring, staffing, whatever you want to call it, it's tough. And even more so, it has become a true art. You have to be good at it. You have to be able to sell it. You have to be able to talk to people to make them want to work at your company. Because let's face it, anymore, and realistically, well, people have choices, and you are not the only choice for them. So you want to be able to do so through incorporating that diverse and inclusion mentality that hopefully your company has. And if it doesn't, reach out to me. I'd be happy to talk to you about how to move forward with having more of that. So let me tell you a quick story about a company that I applied to some time back, because when we can actually incorporate the experiences that we've had as individuals, and we can say the worst experience I ever had was this, or maybe the best experience I've ever had was this, those are our teaching moments. That's what helps us deliver and incorporate a better experience for those around us, because we would want that better experience, or we would want to make sure we never repeat that bad experience that we had. So I met with the owner of the company, great guy, very interesting. We went on a tour, we walked around, we spent some time, and then he said, I'd like for you to meet the executive staff that you're going to be working with. Well, that on the surface sounded great, but I sat down with them together. There was only two other executives of the company, fairly small, and they immediately started asking me questions like, how do you fire people? What is your way of firing people? If we had someone today that we wanted you to fire, how would that work? And I immediately thought, well, you're not selling me at all. And then they started telling me, how do you work with an owner who's really difficult and pretty much, in fact, the words that they used was asshole. And I kind of was taken back for a moment being in HR, and I thought, well, this is interesting. So they started telling me stories about how the owner is and what he did and how difficult it was. And let's be honest, I would much rather have people be honest with me and talk to me about the reality of a company as compared to starting and going, whoa, this isn't what I thought. But again, they also weren't selling me on other aspects of the company. They could have said things like, the owner can be tough. He has high expectations. He expects you to be able to do this, this, and this without hesitation. He expects you to be able to jump in and handle things without hesitation. He expects you to work on weekends and nights without hesitation. That would be a way in which to do it. But unfortunately, the way in which they sold it to me, and, my meeting with this guy actually wasn't so bad, that I thought, is it that they maybe didn't like me? There could have been that, and they were trying to find a way to get me out the door. Any of the above could have happened, but it was really important in my mind that if I were to take that job, that we change the entire recruitment structure, the sourcing, the staffing, the way in which we hired to a totally different level, because right there I was able to see this is not good. I then got to talk to some of the employees of the company. And the employees actually seemed pretty pleasant, and they started asking questions like, what would you change that you've already seen happening here? It's a legit question for an HR person, I think. But then they started going into things like, well, how do you fire people? What do you do when you fire people? And I thought, well, there's a culture here, obviously, that's all about terminations. And then they started talking about the people who have been terminated, that they were people who were Hispanic, Asian, African American, from other countries. There were all kinds of things that people started using. And as I looked around, I noticed every single person there was white. And if that's what they're going for, if that's what their culture really is, that's not good. And it definitely is not going to entice people to work there. And maybe that's not what they want. Maybe they don't want diversity. Maybe they don't want inclusion. But I will tell you, as an HR person, a long-standing HR person, that's going to kick them in the butt at some point really soon. It was a really bad experience. And that experience taught me what to do right and what not to do based on what they did. I did not work in that company, by the way. So when leading recruitment teams, we want to make sure that our recruiters or those that handle recruitment get all the tools that they possibly can. So how do we involve diversity and inclusion in our hiring practices? Well, first, ask your teams, where did they look for jobs? Where do they find diversity? Because your teams have more stories to tell than you ever give them credit for. Ask your teams, where should we recruit? Ask them for ideas, because we're not all perfect. Us HR people, we are not going to find all the places and the things that are out there when we could get some amazing ideas from our current employees saying, hey, I actually like this place. And I know that they will post jobs. Finding out where you can recruit that is going to only add to the diversity of your organization. But I like this one the most. Ask applicants what they consider to be best practices in hiring as it pertains to diversity and inclusion. Yes, it is absolutely okay to ask an applicant for help. In fact, if anything, that applicant is going to find you to be transparent. They're going to find you to be welcoming. They're going to find that you want to do more things. And that alone is huge. It is what you should absolutely be doing. It is okay to ask an applicant for help. Where do you think we should actually do our recruitment, our advertising, our reach outs? Where do we get that from? They will only see that you are wanting and interested in bettering that organization. Ask your new hires. So once someone started, go back, circle back, and ask them, what were we missing in the hiring process as it pertains to diversity and inclusion? What did you see we could do better? Maybe something that your prior company did. Why not ask? They will absolutely appreciate the respect that you are giving them simply by asking these questions. It will help you learn. It will help the recruitment staff learn. It will help you if you're not even in HR and you're in leadership and you're doing the hiring process. It will help you if you're not in leadership or HR and you're in the team who's helping in the hiring process. Asking those questions. A recent training program, that I did with the company was really interesting and a lot of fun because we got to a lot of great subjects. We talked about diversity through character and how diversity coming from the people that you've hired simply based on who they are is huge. And I'm not saying that's the end all, by the way, but I definitely think that when we diversify the people we're hiring, in other words, not hiring everyone that's just like you, not hiring everyone that's just like your favorite employee, because come on, they exist, and not hiring someone that is like your team. That diversity through character is going to be fantastic. Unconscious bias. Let's talk about that for a minute. Unconscious bias exists with all of us. I don't care who you are. I don't care what you do. I don't care what your experience is. I don't care how open-minded you are. We all have some form of unconscious bias, and we need to figure out what that is. What is the unconscious bias that plagues us? And we need to be aware of it, and we need to stop it, and we need to set that aside. Some people might have unconscious bias about something as simple as an area code. You remember that TV show, Beverly Hills 90210, which actually has some comeback right now, I heard. But that was about a zip code. That was about an area. That was about where some people lived. Some people still do live there. But what's important to understand is some people have a bias against an area. Where someone lives, it's the other side of the tracks, whatever you want to call it. In your mind, you could be thinking, oh, they live over there? That needs to be removed from your mind. I'm not telling you that you have to stop thinking the way you think, because I'm never going to be able to get through to anyone with that. But what I can say is stop thinking what you're thinking at work. Work is a professional place, and we are changing what we're doing. And then hopefully through that, our unconscious bias or our bias starts changing overall. Let's start somewhere. So, another unconscious bias could be as simple as a military duty, someone who's in the military. And if someone has a thought on people in the military, and so therefore they start having a bias against those who have been in or are currently in the military, be really aware of that. Step back from yourself and say, you know what? That's not professional here. Think about what makes your company diverse and add that into your recruitment plans as far as advertising or your hiring webpage. Think about what your company looks like, because you want to absolutely make it clear in your hiring practices. One of the things that Tech People Resources is doing right now is we've created badges, and those badges are like badges of honor. So if you are hiring and you've utilized us, Tech People Resources, to help in learning and development for those who happen to do the recruiting, the sourcing, the hiring, we award you, in essence, a badge to put on the recruitment page that says we utilize an outside firm to help us in bettering the learning and education with our employees. It's a huge deal. You get this at 1 year, you get this at one program, 5 programs, and 10 programs. It's definitely a bragging point. And a lot of companies are using this sort of thing now to be able to tell their people who are applying with them, hey, this is important to us. What we give back to you is important. And so that's something that we're really pushing. And this would be the same with diversity and inclusion. You need to brag about what you're doing in your company and in your hiring practices, and to keep people there. Retention is huge. Keeping people is smart. Obviously, turnover is one of the most expensive things that you can do as a company. But what does diversity bring us? Well, diversity in a company brings us increased creativity. That creativity is huge. If we all thought the same, if we all thought in the same manner, we would never go anywhere. We'd be boring and it would die. My business partner, Dana, she and I think very differently, which is great for our company. We are coming at it from 2 totally different perspectives. You can also foster innovation through diverse idea generation. Innovation is huge, and that idea generation through diversity is magnificent. It's something that you have to have. What else does diversity bring? Well, it brings brainstorming through diverse opinions, and better decision-making through diverse perspectives. On YouTube, you can find a video, and I found this recently, and it's phenomenal. It's called A Portrait Session with a Twist. So again, on YouTube, it's called A Portrait Session with a Twist. It's not a recruitment video, it has nothing to do with hiring, but it's a really good unconscious bias video that helps to tell a story. It is short and very impactful. Take a look. Okay, I'm off my soapbox. As we close, I want to remind you that you can always contact us at Tech People Resources for learning and development opportunities on any HR-related subject. Or you can always reach out to me at Houchin Consulting for HR assistance of any kind. We're always here to help. And remember, it is about respect. Your employees will thank you. So, tune in next week to HR Chalk Talk as I review the subject of terminating team members and how to do it respectfully. Remember, it's about respect. Your employees will thank you. The more you know, the more you will succeed. Thank you for joining me today. Have a great week.